Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad, this is my channel Animate Orange, and welcome to another Metal Earth build. Today we are going to work on the Disney exclusive in color AT-AT model. Now this is builds just like the original AT-AT model that came out quite some time back, like 2, 3, 4 years ago. I honestly can't, maybe even 6 years at this point, I can't remember. It's been out for quite a while now. This one is just a colored version that's Disney exclusive. You can see it's kind of a tan color. It's not my first AT-AT. This is my first AT-AT. It is very silver. You can see the color difference, and other than the kind of brownish gray, there's a bit of red at the front where the little cockpit area is. But we're going to build this today. Again, it's not my first time building it. Looks to be very much the same model, but this will allow me to do a little bit better of a build video than I had when I first built this model. So let's go over to the table, open this up, see if there is anything different about it, and start putting it together. Let us open up and take a look at the in color AT-AT and see if I can even remember how different it is from the original Metal Earth AT-AT. What do we have inside? We have 2 metal sheets with some selective coloring on only the parts. Mostly just looks gray with there's a hint of red here, a little bit of black there, and over here. Or no, never mind. That's just space in between. So anyway, I should put these silver to silver. When I put them out of the way to the side. One piece of paper for the instructions, just in case anyone out there needs me to go over the instructions. We'll do that ever so briefly. But open it up. Quite a bit different than the last time I built an AT-AT. It's a newer style that Metal Earth has been doing for quite some time now. Let's see, make sure. So basically, we open it up to page 1. Metal Earth logo here. We've got line drawing of the completed model, one of the sheets, item number, code numbers, 360 view. We have a QR code here, or you can either scan that or just type in this web address. It'll take you to a website where you can see a 360 view of the model that you can spin around on screen and actually look at the part in case you're having trouble figuring out how something fits together. We have a sample part here with notations on insertion tabs, insertion holes, and fold lines. Insertion tabs ultimately go into insertion holes. That's basically how these things are held together. And fold lines are just pre-scored areas where the parts fold and bend and shape. And beside that, we have the legends. First time I built an at Walker, we only had blue circle and green triangle. Now they've added all of this. We have P for painted side, NE for non-engraved side. So very similar to E for engraved side and NE for non-engraved. It's painted or colored side versus non-painted or colored side. I have an intention point here. Usually when you see that, it's trying to get your attention about how something comes together. It's oftentimes has to do with alignment. Make sure this part is sticking in this direction when you attach the two together. Sometimes there's actually wording with it to explain what you need to pay attention to, but it can vary. In the blue circle, that means to insert a tab in its slot, fold it to 90 degrees. Green triangle, insert the tab into its slot and twist it 90 degrees. Twisted tabs are more secure, folded ones look cleaner. Folded ones are usually used on the outside of the model, twisted ones are on the inside, though it can vary. We have a bit about tools, but I'm going to save that here and talk about tools in just a moment. At the bottom of page 1, you see that there are an outline, or there is an outline of the 2 metal sheets. And I'm just going to grab one back over here and compare it. Looks like I've grabbed sheet B. Now the sheets themselves are labeled A and B, and then the part numbers on them. That makes it easier to find the parts. If they say part 30 is on sheet B, you know to look on sheet B and not bother over here, unless it's a duplicate part, which if you notice, some parts are colored in while others aren't. The ones colored in are duplicate parts that are used in more areas. Pretty sure that these are part of the feet. This thing has 4 feet, so it has 4 parts, these, and I believe that's probably also foot parts, and you'll notice that they're not necessarily duplicated on the same sheet. Basically, this is part 29. When you are looking for part 29, you can look for that color and shape. You can find the number, but it's only labeled once. The other ones that are colored and shaped the same are also duplicate parts. It does make it a little easier to find them. We slide over to page 2. Interesting bit, we have notes at the top, and this is new. Actually, I just read it and it's not as new as I thought, but interesting that it's up here and in bold. In order to avoid a possible injury from sharp edges, please carefully discard the metal sheets after parts have been removed. I've seen that before. I forget that it's even a thing. Honestly, I've built 300 models. I like not 300, but close to 300 models at this point. I've only been poked and bled like 3 times. I mean, it can happen. Be careful. This product is not a toy. Keep out the reach of children. I'm wondering, I don't know if I've seen that before. Maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I'm wondering if it's kind of in bold up here, in red, simply because this is sold at Disney stores. I don't really know. Anyway, this is the start of the assembly flow chart. We have sort of a different view right here. You got part 1, which is on sheet B, part 2 on sheet B, part 3, sheet A, part 4, showing you the parts and showing you how they kind of come together. You can see A is folded. There's little blue lines with arrows showing you how it's folded. We've got 2. You can kind of see a little blue arrow that you fold the 2 tabs in, and that plugs into one side. 4 is the opposite of 2. Same thing, the 2 little tabs fold in, it plugs into the side. You'll notice the green triangle for twisted tabs. We have this front part. Here's the part. Here's it all bent up. The red parts that are highlighted are indicating the parts that are bent. The blue line and arrow helps indicate how it's bent. It plugs in here, twisted tabs. A lot of information in a small area. That's how that comes together. You move over, we've got part 5, folds like this, plugs in up here, twisted tabs. You move over, that's what it looks like. Move over here, part 6. This is the part shaped into a circle. Comes down here, it's plugged into the back with twisted tabs. And that's the gist of it. That's how the instructions work. You just follow the arrows. In this instance, it actually kind of curves and comes back. You've got sub-assemblies that come together and then plug in. You get down here, again, follow the arrows, it kind of circles around, which the older instructions did kind of do that. So I think these are probably very similar to the original AT instructions, just slightly different format. You get to the bottom of this page, we flip over to page 3 and continue just following the arrows. This tends to do a loop across here and then over here. Basically follow it until you get to the end and you are done with your model. Pretty straightforward. Let's take a moment to talk about some tools, and I've got what I consider the basic set in front of me, starting with a pair of flush clippers or side clippers. These are primarily used to cut the parts out of the sheets. You can get the parts out by folding and twisting, though you run the risk of breaking something you didn't mean to break. A good pointed set of side cutters or flush cutters like this Play-Doh set that I've got here work really great for quickly getting the parts out so you can get on with your build. I have, of course, a small selection of tweezers. We've got a fairly basic set. This actually came with one of the older Iconics sets, and I've been using it for quite a while. But a good sturdy, flat end tweezers can come in really handy for doing a great number of things. I also have a few pieces from a precision set of tweezers. If you need some precision tweezers, just search precision tweezers online. You'll be able to find something out there. These two are very similar. They have a very fine point, though I did grind the tip of these down to help me grab tabs. And then this is just kind of a flat set for getting in tight spaces. And then we have a couple of pieces left over from the Fascinations 3-piece set. I broke the clippers long ago, so I had to replace them. But we have long nose pliers and flat nose pliers. Really handy. These are handy for bending long parts, and these are handy for bending short sections right here. But this is the basic set. We'll do a great amount of things with just this set right here. You'll be able to build a lot of different models and do a lot of different things. I also have these step mandrels that I occasionally pull out. These are something else you can find in the jewelry making section. They just have different size round bits for shaping things like tires. Stuff in the jewelry section can come in very handy for making 3D metal models. We've talked a bit about the tools that I'm going to use. I've got my basic set here scattered on the table, my metal sheets. I'm going to organize this stuff a little bit, put my sheets over to the side in order, tools over on this side. We'll get started on this model. Part 1 fought back a little. The tabs did not want to go into their slots. I left this open for now because there is a bottom part that needs adding in. I needed to relocate a couple of tabs to allow this bottom piece to sit in place. Time to build the legs. It can get a bit confusing which side to put part 11 on, I initially put part 11 on the silver side, thinking we were hiding the silver side and showing the color side. But that's not quite how it goes. 11 goes on the painted side. You might think that parts 17 and 18 are meant to be shaped into more of a roundish tube shape to match the ends, but no, it just bends into a U shape, both of them. All 4 feet of the AT-AT are the same and made up of 3 parts. I'm only going to show shaping one of the 4 feet. It's pretty simple. I will say though, do be careful that you line up the gap in part 27 properly. If you look at the picture of the model, there's a kind of an overhang at the front and back of each foot, and that gap needs to be in the right place with the tabs so that that overhang can hang out. Just like the original AT-AT, the tab doesn't seem long enough on the bottom of the leg. It's just barely enough to attach and twist. This is my third time building the AT-AT. My first time I had problems with the main body and broke part of it. You have to plan your steps. For one, you're not going to be able to get to all of the tabs to twist them. So what I do, for starters, is prepare the folds and tabs. And then I fold down one side, starting with the outer pieces and then bringing the center piece down and secure those tabs. After adding the sort of head and folding down the front and back bits, I start attaching it to the legs. Once it's attached, fold down the other side, starting again with the forward and rear pieces. Secure those and then add the middle piece. The only tab you're going to be able to secure here is that bottom tab, but that should be enough to hold everything together. And we are done. And there we go, it's all finished and complete. It was just like the original build, at least as far as I can remember, though this one turned out better than the original silver one. One of the things about the original silver one, this little top piece that goes on top of the head, I broke one of the flaps off, so you can kind of see that's missing. And, oh, there it goes. I also partially broke the back, so I have to kind of cram it in there just right and hope that it stays. It's actually broken and it doesn't always want to stay. So now I have a non-broken one to put on my shelves and look at, and it has some color to it, and it definitely adds to the look and detail of it, and the fact that there's still some silver showing makes it a little more interesting. So that's it. Pretty simple build, just like before. Pretty easy to do and a nice one to start with as far as Star Wars is concerned. Not much complication to it, just I guess the hardest part would be trying to get some of the bits to the leg shaped just right and making sure you assemble this top body part right. You have to do that middle flap last, and really these two side tabs, you don't even really have to twist them. As long as you get that bottom tab secure and you get them in their spot, it'll work out just fine. I went and looked back to see how long it took me to do the original, see if I had a note of that, because I do try to keep a spreadsheet of all my unique builds and time frames. And I didn't record that one. It's one of the first AT-AT was one of my first builds, and I wasn't as concerned about time at that time. So I don't know what the time frame was, but I can tell you that this took me an hour and 20 minutes to put together, which seems about right. I just took my time and made sure everything was shaped as it needed to be and carefully put it together and did not try to rush through it, and it came together nicely and fantastic little model. And now I have the colored version to add to my shelf. I'm going to leave it at that. As always, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Thank you for watching, and as always, keep on keeping on.